the thing nobody tells you about trust. It has a paper trail. March 14th. I'm sitting in a lawyer's office that smells like old leather and lies, and this stranger, in a $4,000 suit, slides a folder across the desk. Not gently. He doesn't give a shit about my feelings. Inside are 11 different signatures. All mine, except I only remember signing 3 of them. Mrs. Sterling, he says, the state of New York considers you a co-conspirator in a wire fraud scheme totaling $1.4 million. My husband's been dead for 6 weeks. The funeral cost $18,000. I paid for it with a credit card I didn't know existed, in my name, with a limit I never authorized. And now this lawyer is telling me that the woman who baked banana bread every Sunday and hosted book club in her living room is legally classified as a thief. I didn't steal anything. I just handed over the checkbook. And apparently, in the eyes of the law, that's the same damn thing. They teach you to fear the wrong things. Stranger danger, dark alleys, the man in the ski mask. But nobody warns you about the man who kisses you goodnight and then signs your name to a HELOC loan while you're asleep upstairs. Nobody tells you that taking care of the finances can mean systematically erasing your financial identity so you can be the perfect fall guy when everything collapses. For 23 years, I thought I had a partnership. I thought Grant handled the boring stuff so I could focus on the kids, the house, the carefully curated life we built in Westchester County. Every month, he'd slide a stack of papers across the breakfast table. Just routine stuff, Sloan. Sign here, initial here. This one keeps the property taxes current. And I signed. Because that's what you do when you trust someone, right? That's what every marriage counselor, every financial guru, every smiling couple in those retirement planning commercials tells you. Share everything. Be a team. Trust your partner. What they don't tell you is that trust without verification is just a polite word for negligence when you're sitting across from a bankruptcy attorney. The day after Grant's funeral, I started going through the filing cabinet in his office. Not because I suspected anything, because I needed to find the life insurance policy, the will, the normal documents you need when someone dies. Instead, I found 14 manila folders, each one labeled with variations of my name I haven't used since college. Sloan E. Miller, S. E. Miller Sterling, Sloan Miller Sterling. Each folder was a separate financial identity. Each one had accounts I never opened, loans I never took, signatures I never made, but they looked close enough that no bank questioned them. Here's what broke me. In the 3rd folder, there was a mortgage application for a property in Delaware. I'd never been to Delaware, but according to this document, on August 4th, 2019, I personally walked into a notary's office and signed for a $340,000 loan on a house I'd never seen. The loan was in default. The house had been foreclosed 18 months earlier. I called the bank. The woman on the phone, her name was Patricia, I'll never forget it. She had this chirpy voice like she was reading from a script. Yes, Mrs. Sterling, we mailed the default notices to your primary residence. Perhaps they were misdirected. They weren't misdirected. Grant was collecting the mail at 2 p.m. every single day for 2 decades. I thought he was being helpful. He was being careful. By the time I hired the forensic accountant, a woman named Ruth who wore reading glasses on a chain and had the emotional warmth of a tax audit, the truth looked like this. My name was on 17 active debts. Only 4 of them were real. The rest were what Ruth called phantom obligations, loans taken out using forged documents, authorized by someone who knew my social security number, my mother's maiden name, every security question answer, because he'd been sleeping next to me for 23 years. And here's the part that made me want to drive my car into the Hudson River. Most of them couldn't be challenged because I'd signed joint tax returns. I'd signed the mortgage refinance papers he'd slid across the table with the cable bill and the homeowner's insurance renewal. I'd created a legal pattern of knowing participation. The debt collectors don't care that I didn't know. The courts don't care that I trusted him. Willful ignorance, they call it, as if being a good wife is the same thing as being a criminal. My daughter, Becca, 24, works in marketing, still thinks her father was a hero. Said to me 2 weeks ago, "Mom, you're being dramatic. Dad provided for us. He gave us a good life." I opened my laptop. I showed her the spreadsheet Ruth built. Every vacation we took, every private school tuition payment, every anniversary surprise weekend in the Hamptons, funded by loans taken against assets I didn't know we had, using my credit that I didn't know was being destroyed. "Becca," I said, my hands shaking so hard I had to clasp them together. "Your college fund, he cashed it out in 2016 to cover the interest on a condo in Miami, a condo where his business associate lived, a business associate who was 29 years old and drove a car registered in my maiden name." She didn't believe me until she tried to buy a car last week. Her credit application was denied because her social security number had been used as a co-signer on a loan for a yacht brokerage that went bankrupt in 2021. He didn't just burn me, he burned the next generation. The protector was the arsonist. So here's what this is. This isn't a budgeting video. This isn't me telling you to check your credit report quarterly or communicate with your partner about money. This is me telling you that the most dangerous financial criminal you will ever encounter might be the person who brings you coffee in bed, and the system is designed to make you the accomplice. I'm Sloane Sterling, or I was. Now I'm Sloane Miller again. I changed it back. And I'm going to show you exactly how the man I loved turned me into a ghost in my own financial life. The coffee in bed should have been my first clue. Every Tuesday for 23 years, Grant would wake up at 6:47 a.m., not 6:45, not 6:50, kiss my forehead and say the same thing. "Bank day, sweetheart. I'll grab lunch in town." He'd be back by 3:30 with takeout sushi from that place on Main Street that spelled my name wrong on the order slip. I thought it was routine. Boring, reliable, married people routine. Now I'm sitting in my car outside Westchester Savings at 1:58 p.m. on a Tuesday, watching the door he walked through every single week. The bank closes at 4. He always arrived at 2 p.m. exactly. Ruth, the forensic accountant with the glasses chain, told me to do this. "Go see what 2 p.m. looks like without him," she said. At 2:03, a woman in a pantsuit walks out holding a manila folder. At 2:11, a man in contractor boots deposits a check at the ATM. Nobody's managing a crisis. Nobody's juggling accounts to keep the house of cards from collapsing. That's when it hits me. Grant wasn't making deposits, he was making excuses, keeping the past due notices at bay for one more week, one more month, one more year, just long enough that I'd never get the alert on my phone telling me our life was a fiction. The sushi place closed in 2019. He'd been bringing me gas station California rolls for 3 years. Gas station sushi wasn't the only thing he'd been lying about. The safe deposit box key was in his wallet when they gave me his personal effects at the hospital. Small, brass, stamped with the number 847. I didn't even know we had one. The bank manager, a woman named Carol with a sympathy smile that didn't reach her eyes, walked me down to the vault. "Take your time, Mrs. Sterling. I'll be right outside if you need anything." I expected jewelry, maybe stock certificates, the kind of things people hide in banks. Box 847 contained a graveyard. 17 envelopes, all marked overdue in angry red stamps, a flip phone I'd never seen before, the kind drug dealers use in movies, and underneath everything, A single photograph. A craftsman-style house with blue shutters and a wraparound porch. Beautiful. Completely unfamiliar. I flipped it over. Written in Grant's handwriting, 4225 Oakmont Drive, Wilmington, D.E. Closing, 8419, SEM approved. SEM. Sloan Elizabeth Miller. My maiden initials. My hands started shaking so badly the photo slipped onto the floor. I'd never approved anything, never seen this house, never been to Wilmington. But according to the mortgage statement paperclip to the back, $340,000 at 6.2% interest, I'd signed for it 37 days after our anniversary trip to Napa. The trip, he said, was on points. Points don't cost $340,000. Ruth spread the documents across her conference table like a coroner laying out evidence. She didn't do small talk. Just clicked her pen twice and said, "You're going to want to sit down for this." The shadow ledger, that's what she called it, looked like a parallel universe version of my life. Every memory I had, every moment I thought was built on love and sacrifice, had a price tag I never saw. Napa 2019, home equity line of credit, $47,000, signed S.E. Miller with a notary stamp from a UPS store in Poughkeepsie. I was at a PTA meeting that day. The meeting minutes prove it. Becca's senior year spring break in Turks and Caicos, personal loan, $22,000, collateralized against a life insurance policy in my maiden name that I didn't know existed. Our 20th anniversary, the surprise weekend in Charleston he claimed he'd been saving for, cash advance on a credit card opened using my mother's address and a forged signature that looked exactly like mine from 2003. Ruth slid her reading glasses down. "Mrs. Sterling," he practiced. "Look at these signatures from 2012 versus 2020. He got better at being you." I made it to her office bathroom before I threw up. Every happy memory I had was bought with my stolen identity. Stolen identity doesn't care about your tax bracket. Ruth showed me Jolene's file because she thought I needed perspective. "You're not alone in this," she said, sliding a manila folder marked with a case number instead of a name. Jolene inherited 847 acres in rural Kentucky from her grandmother, land that had been in her family since 1889. Her husband, Michael, told her the property taxes were getting complicated, and he'd handle the paperwork. She trusted him. Farm wives trust their husbands with dirt under their fingernails and calloused hands. Michael had a gambling problem she didn't know about. Poker debts, sports betting, the kind of hole that swallows men whole. He sold the mineral rights to a fracking company for $340,000, signed Jolene's name, used her inherited land as collateral for loans he took to cover the debts before the fracking money ran out. When the tractor rolled on him in 2018, Jolene thought she'd inherited the farm. Instead, she inherited $180,000 in outstanding debt and a lease agreement that gave an energy company the right to drill under her grandmother's grave. The land was still hers on paper, but everything beneath it, the thing that made it valuable, belonged to strangers. She couldn't even sell it to pay off what he owed. Strangers I could handle. My own daughter was a different kind of violence. Becca came over on a Thursday with that look, the one she gets when she thinks I'm being dramatic. She set her purse down on the kitchen counter, the same counter where Grant used to slide papers across for me to sign, and said, "Mom, you need to stop trashing Dad's memory. He was a provider. He gave us everything." Everything. That word sat between us like a grenade. I walked to the dining room and picked up the folder Ruth had marked Education Fund Disbursements, brought it back, dropped it in front of her, hard enough that her coffee mug rattled. Open it." She hesitated. Good. She should. Inside, a wire transfer receipt dated September 2016, $84,000 from an account labeled Rebecca A. Sterling Education Trust to a property management company in Miami. Attached was a lease agreement for a 2-bedroom condo at 1477 Brickell Avenue. Tenant name, Gabriella Rost. Age 29. Occupation, marketing consultant for grants firm. He used your college fund to pay the interest on his mistress's condo, Becca. The silence wasn't just deafening. It was the sound of my daughter's childhood cracking open like an egg, spilling everything rotten inside. She didn't cry. She just stared at her father's signature on the transfer form. Finally, how long? 7 years. 7 years is also how long the IRS can come after you. Ruth keeps a second folder on her desk, the one she shows clients when they say, "But I make good money, this can't happen to me." Claire's story. VP of Operations at a Fortune 500, corner office, $340,000 salary, the kind of woman who negotiates merger deals before breakfast. Her husband, David, was a stay-at-home dad who handled the household finances while she traveled for work. She'd come home to clean counters, folded laundry, kids who'd finished their homework. He made her life run smoothly. What he didn't do was pay taxes. For 7 years, David filed extensions. Then he just stopped filing. The IRS doesn't send gentle reminders. They send liens. Claire found out when her corporate card was declined at a client dinner in Singapore. Her paycheck had been garnished for $287,000 in back taxes, penalties, and interest. She called David from the hotel. "How could you not tell me?" His answer, "I didn't want to stress you out. You were busy." The IRS agent assigned to her case didn't care that she earned every dollar, didn't care that David had signing authority she never questioned. Joint return means joint liability. Claire's signature was on those tax forms. 7 years of them, filed or not filed, the debt was hers. She lost the house before she could divorce him. Losing the house is exactly what the bank's attorney wanted me to fear. His name was Mitchell Crane, 62, gray suit that cost more than my car, and a smile like a scalpel. The deposition room smelled like old coffee and fluorescent lights. He didn't waste time with pleasantries. "Mrs. Sterling, you lived in a $1.2 million home, drove a Lexus, vacationed internationally, 4 times a year? I don't see how... You liked the lifestyle, didn't you?" He leaned forward, pen tapping against his legal pad. "The country club membership, private school tuition, the wine you served at dinner parties. What was it, $80 a bottle?" My lawyer, a woman named Teresa with sharp eyes and sharper objections, touched my arm. "Don't engage." But I couldn't stop myself. "My husband told me we could afford it." Crane smiled. Actually smiled. "And you never asked to see a bank statement? Never questioned how a mid-level insurance broker funded a lifestyle that required $18,000 a month in cash flow?" The room got smaller. "You signed the tax returns, Mrs. Sterling. You signed the mortgage refinances. That's not passive trust. That's active participation. You benefited from the fraud. The court will see that." He made me sound like an accomplice. Maybe I was. An accomplice wouldn't have spent 3 weeks combing through phone records at 2 a.m. Teresa told me the case was weak. Unless we can prove he acted without your knowledge, the joint liability stands. She said it gently, like a doctor delivering bad news about something terminal. I went home and opened Grant's laptop, the one the estate attorney said I could access. Spent 11 nights going through his email archives, browser history, saved voicemails. Ruth called it digital archaeology. I called it desperation. On night 12, I found it. a recorded call from August 3rd, 2019, one day before the Wilmington closing. Grant had called Westchester Savings requesting verification of a notarized document. The recording was automatically saved to his email because he'd opted in to some compliance feature for work. The bank rep asked, "And you're calling on behalf of the notary?" Grant's voice, smooth as always, "I am the notary, Stephen Caldwell, license number 4782-NY. Just confirming receipt of Mrs. Sterling's power of attorney documents for the Delaware transaction." There was no Stephen Caldwell, I checked. Grant had used a fake notary license to authorize a signature I never made. Impersonating a notary is a felony, separate from the fraud, undeniable. Teresa listened to the recording 3 times. Then she looked at me differently. Naivety isn't consent, Sloan. This is prosecutable. Prosecutable meant survivable, or so I thought. The judge voided the Delaware mortgage in 47 minutes, ruled that forged notary credentials constituted criminal fraud, invalidating my liability. Teresa squeezed my hand under the table. "You're free, Sloan." Free meant something different than I'd imagined. The debt disappeared, but so did everything else. The house sold at auction, underwater by $340,000. Grant's life insurance policy had been cashed out in 2020 to cover margin calls on stocks I didn't know he'd bought. Retirement accounts drained to service the loans he'd taken in my name. I moved into a 1-bedroom apartment with rented furniture and a view of a parking lot. Becca called me on a Tuesday, not Thursday. Wrong day for our usual check-in. "Mom, something's wrong with my credit." My stomach dropped. "What happened?" "I tried to buy a car. They ran my report and denied me on the spot. Said I have a collections account for $47,000, some yacht company in Florida from 2021. But I was in grad school in 2021. I don't even like boats." Grant had used her social security number as a cosigner. Our daughter, his daughter, was collateral damage he'd planned 3 years in advance. The protector was the arsonist. Becca's voice cracked. "How do I fix this?" "The same way I did. You become someone he can't reach anymore." Becoming someone he can't reach starts with a form and a cold plastic chair. The Social Security office smells like industrial cleaner and impatience. I'm holding court order number 2024-CV8847, legal permission to stop being Sloan Sterling. The clerk, a woman with reading glasses on a beaded chain just like Ruth, doesn't ask why. She's seen this before. "New card will arrive in 7 to 10 business days, Miss Miller." Miss Miller, not Mrs. Sloan Miller, like I haven't been since I was 23 and believed that sharing a last name meant sharing a life. 3 days later, I walk into a credit union I've never banked at before, open a checking account with my new Social Security card and a driver's license that still has my old address but my real name. The banker asks if I want to add an authorized user. No. Not even for convenience? A spouse, adult child? Especially not them. She pauses, then nods. She gets it. I'm the only person who can see this balance, the only person who can move this money. The only signature that matters is mine, and I'll know every time I make it because my hand will be the one holding the pen. Here's what I learned. A man who asks for your signature but hides the ledger isn't loving you. He's using you as insurance, and the policy only pays out when you're too broken to fight back. I'm Sloan Miller now. Nobody gets to bankrupt her but me. Have you ever signed something without reading it because you trusted the person handing you the pen? Have you ever let someone handle your finances because it felt easier than paying attention? Drop a comment. I want to know if I'm the only one who thought trust was enough protection, because it isn't.